Uganda finds itself at the center of the conflict in South Sudan because of the deployment of its troops to Juba. I sat down with the country's Minister for Foreign Affairs and discussed that and much more. Mr. Jeje Abubakhar Odongo, Ugandan Minister for Foreign Affairs, thank you so much for making time for us on TRT World one-on-one. Great. I'd like us to start with the broader picture of the African continent. And there's so many conflicts that we see on this continent that have spanned on for decades. The Sahel region, the DRC, Sudan, South Sudan, Mozambique, and so many more. Just what is the solution to these African problems?
Thank you very much. Let me begin by saying thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share a few viewpoints about Africa to the rest of the world. If I may come specifically to the question you've asked, it is true. The African continent, if we could say it, is in a point of flash as of now. We do have conflicts in the Great Lakes region, Eastern DRC, Northern Mozambique. We have conflicts in Southern Sudan. We have conflicts in the Sudan. We have conflicts in Somalia. We have conflicts in the Sahel. Now, this is not a very rosy picture from Africa. But the good thing is that these are not insurmountable problems. Because one, if we may speak about Mogadishu, or rather, if we speak about Mozambique, in the Cabo Delgado province, the terrorists are on the back pedal. In Eastern DRC, we have two kind of problems. M23 ADF, Forces for the Democratic Republic for Rwanda, FDLR, all of these are issues that have been with us, that we fully now understand, that we are particularly fully seized with. If we speak about the Eastern DRC, for example, at this moment, we now have a joint East African SADC approach to the problem. And we now also have Qatar infused into this problem. And signs are that the root causes of this problem have been identified and they are now being tackled. I can confidently say that President Kagame, President Tshisekedi are talking. President Tshisekedi has accepted to talk, particularly to M23. So these are positive signs. And we believe soon we will have the bottom of this problem.
You say you confirm the two are talking. So when can we expect to see tangible results? Because these talks have progressed for so long.
I wouldn't want to give a timetable to this.
But it's about the people. At the end of the day, it's about people suffering in the DRC. When do we expect tangible results?
That's true. But you see, human problems are not clockwork. They are fluid. But what is important is that they are flowing in the right direction. And as we speak, we believe, first of all, M23 has accepted on a ceasefire. That is a positive change. We, as I said, are now going to deal with the root causes of that conflict. And that is also a very positive thing. We believe in the very near future, this will be history for us. The question in South Sudan, for example, has always been a conflict between the two main protagonists, Dr. Riek Machar, President Salva Kiir, but I think the IGAD and the region have succeeded in again taking seize of the situation and making sure that it doesn't go out of hand and bringing the two together in order to take them back to the revitalized peace agreement implementation.
And it's good that you brought that up because I want to talk about Uganda's involvement in all of this.
Absolutely.
South Sudan's first vice president is accusing Uganda of violating the United Nations arms embargo by entering the country with armored and air force units and conducting airstrikes there. That's what Riek Machar says. To what extent is that statement true or otherwise?
First of all, let's understand one fact about South Sudan. In the conflict and the arrangements for the peace of South Sudan, Uganda is a guarantor. So it is incumbent upon Uganda to ensure that the path for peace in South Sudan is ensured. It is incumbent upon Uganda to ensure that it does not explode. We in Uganda also have a specific security and defense agreement with the government of South Sudan. And so when we bring all of this to apply, we have no option to be other than to be fully involved and to ensure that our neighbors are assisted to walk the path of peace.
But you know, Uganda has also been on the spot because of suppression of opposition leaders. I say this bearing in mind Dr. Jeje Abubakhar, for instance, is still in remand. We have all seen the hand on Bobi Wine, for instance. I mean, to what extent is there democracy, if I would call it like that, in Uganda, especially bearing in mind what's happening to Dr. Abubakhar right now?
You know, sometimes the narrative about the politics and indeed the level of democracy in Uganda is misconstrued.
How is that?
Because we take incidents and turn them as if they are complete narratives. I want to give you a very specific example. Why is Dr. Jeje Abubakhar in detention? It's simply because there is a specific legal matter that he has to deal with. Rather than appealing to public opinion, let me free, if I were him, I would be anxious to get this matter resolved legally so that government has no issue with me anymore.
So you're
saying why is he avoiding that legal path which is available to him if he's completely innocent? That's one point. Question of Bobi Wine, again, he has never been stopped from doing anything. He is permanently on radio, he is permanently around the world, he's talking, he's continuing with his political programs. We are coming to elections in February next year. We have now started our election cycle by electoral processes in terms of party primaries, in terms of that. So if he was stopped, then we would say democracy has a problem. But since both Jeje Abubakhar, both Bobi Wine are participants in the political process, this is what democracy is all about. The ability to participate, the ability to express yourself, and giving you the opportunity to share your program with the population for them to decide. This is what's going on in Uganda.
Okay, that's what's going on in Uganda. And I want to talk about another thing going on in Uganda, which is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba and the kind of remarks he makes, especially on social media platform X. I just remembered that there's a time he even posted about what can be seen as threats to opposition leader Bobi Wine. He's also made reckless statements that often pit Uganda against other nations. In what capacity is he making these statements, and what is the government doing about it, because it does not look good for Uganda?
You see, in every country there is a government. In Uganda, we have a government led by President Museveni. The position of the government is expressed either by the president or his spokesperson. But by virtue of the freedom of expression that exists in Uganda, anybody is able to say anything. It is now incumbent upon the government of Uganda and the parties affected to discuss and see the magnitude of that.
So that means that in the eyes of the government of Uganda, the remarks that we all see from General Muhoozi are okay. There is absolutely no issue with that.
No, we are not saying it is okay. We are simply saying every individual has the right to speak their mind. We in government have the duty to interpret that vis-a-vis our relations with our neighbors, vis-a-vis our responsibilities to our population.
Rewind up. Let's talk about Africa's reliance on foreign aid. And I ask this because, bearing in mind the cuts that we've seen, the freezes of foreign aid that have particularly hurt the African continent. We also saw the newly imposed tariffs by US President Donald Trump that have again affected Africa, even though there's been progress on that or developments on that. I mean, what is the continent doing, or what should we do to reduce this dependence on foreign aid and rely on ourselves?
First of all, from a personal point of view, the actions by the United States government are entirely their responsibility. Sometimes, and to a greater extent, they are a wake-up call for Africa. Why would we want to continue to rely on aid when we have all of the minerals, when we have the young people, when we have all of this? What are we doing about developing our own capacities so that we are able to fend for ourselves? So yes, temporarily they may have an effect, but in the long run, we should look at them as welcome, as a call for us to wake up and be able to develop capacity on our own.
Right, and lastly, because we are in Türkiye, let's talk about the Türkiye-Uganda relations in terms of trade, diplomatic relations. Where is Uganda at with that right now?
First of all, let me make the point clear that diplomatic relations between Turkey and Uganda are extremely cordial and friendly. We do have embassies in each other's capitals. Turkish companies are very involved in infrastructure development in Uganda, in energy, in road, and in communication. So there is a lot that is going on between the two countries, but there is a lot more that we can be able to do together.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Jeje Abubakhar Odongo, the Foreign Affairs Minister for Uganda. Thank you for your time and contribution.